Alrighty, finally welcome. This is starting over an hour later than originally intended, but here we are. I'm glad with these two mega fucking Johns that this is getting done at all. So, PDC making his CALLOUS Invitational debut. He's on the bottom. He's been a long-time narrator for this tour, but this is his first time playing, and he's off to a bad start, self-destructing into a substitute of Roro. That is McMeghan on the top. Roro played in the first and third of these, did not play in the second. He's got a 3-4 record coming into this, says our researcher. Thank you for checking on that. Therefore, he has not made all that deep of a run. But perhaps this will be the year. He's been very consistent in ADV in recent times, including winning ADV Cup the year before and making finals this year, was it? No, he made top 4 this year, but very, very deep runs, back-to-back ADV Cups. So yeah, like I said, PDC off to a bad start. He's going to self-destruct into a T-Tar sub, which, I mean, it didn't have to be a T-Tar sub. It could have been a Skarm or Gengar or Protect or whatever, but most of the time that play would work out a hell of a lot better than it did in this instance. And Roro, with his usual, a very stally, reactive, safe team, which seems to be his general approach and his general go-to. On the other end, less clear what it is that PDC has. Lead lax is unusual in general. It does tend to have boom when it is a lead lax. But after that, he has a Swampert and a Blissey, so it doesn't necessarily seem like a super offensive team that he favors. Now, Roro, I have heard talk about this particular Jirachi a number of times. It's a weird set. So it is sub, Fire Punch, HP Grass, Body Slam, which is just a strange variant that he swears by and has been using for a little while. I don't know if PDC is aware that Roro really likes this and already knows what he's up against or not, but it's done a good amount of work already. It devastated the Swampert, it got para on the T-Tar, and it's going to get out of here pretty safely. So Roro clearly off to the better start in the first dozen turns of this game. Not too much going on PDC's end, but Roro has killed a poke and severely damaged another. PDC at this point is going to go to his Spiker Fortress. He's going to get the spikes off despite being paralyzed due to Thunder Wave, and we're off to the races. Seismic Toss, 29%, full para. Not sure if he was going to try to blow up on it there or simply go for spikes. We don't know what the Starmie does for Roro. We've only seen Surf. Maybe it's got Rapid Spin, maybe it doesn't. I would assume that it probably does, but TBD. Another Thunder Wave on Blissey here. They both have unrevealeds, one for PDC, 2 for Roro. And I think I recognize this team for Roro the more I look at it. I think he's used this team, or at least very similar variations of this team, in the past. Now, Blissey going to come in for PDC. That's going to get surfed on. The Blissey seems like maybe a difficult Pokemon for Roro to break, but like I said, his general mindset is very defensive and safe and reactive, and that he will eventually get there just by grinding an opponent out. He had an opportunity to get BS'd out there. There was a surprise Thunderbolt coming down. Could have gotten him with a crit or whatever. It didn't, but it still did 62% to Starmie, which we see does have Rapid Spin. So no spikes right now for either player. Doesn't look like Roro is going to have a spiker anywhere on this team. T-Tar once again is going to come into the Jirachi. Body Slam is only going to negate leftovers. Para doesn't matter since he's already paralyzed. And in comes Bliss. We've seen only Crunch and Flamethrower from this T-Tar. Don't know if it has any kind of physical presence, but if not, it's not going to be able to break Blissey. And Bliss is going to go for Wish here, which, I mean, certainly the Starmie needs, but other pokes would take it as well. Here's Tyranitar, who, as long as he avoids the freeze, which he does, is going to be fully healed with the Wish. And that's back up to a hundo. Going to go for Focus Punch here. PDC is going to call him. Ice Punch is going to prevent the Focus Punch from coming down. And, wow, PDC, I mean, isn't conceding, but he's already saying GG. So, I mean, that's pretty rough. PDC is not doing so hot this game. Rock Slide does miss here to at least enable an Earthquake from Fortress, but this is all Roro right now. Here's Rock Slide again, fishing for either flinch or full para. Does get the flinch, so spikes don't come down. Here's Rock Slide again, and full para again. This is very, very poor for PDC. This is a very one-sided affair. Doesn't even get to reestablish spikes. There's the knockout for Roro, and there's the concession. I guess the GG was ahead of us in real time. But, man, they were playing quickly. We're not taking a lot of time in between turns. And that game, like I said, a one-sided affair. Roro takes game one without much effort. Doesn't drop a poke. Doesn't break a sweat. PDC is going to have to rally back. And it looks like they've already started the second game. So I guess we'll do this all in one video. Here is game two. PDC on the bottom once again. Now it is Roro on the top. It is two lead waters, a Vaporeon and a Coon respectively. Coon is usually either extremely stally or extremely offensive with very little in between. Vaporeon, on the other hand, in the modern day, it traditionally was on stall teams, but in the modern day, it is often used as a very, very big substitute creator to set up an offensive team. You can usually create a big sub that's hard to break and pass that to a physical threat, a Metagross, a Salamence, a T-Tower, whatever. I don't know that that's a great play in this situation. Now, Coon probably can't actually touch Vaporeon at all thanks to the water absorbability, but at the same time, Coon very well may have Roar, so if Vaporeon goes for a sub, he may instantly get phased out. Instead, we have Celebi on Celebi, one via a switch, one via a baton pass. The fact that Roro is willing to make this switch, I would say, means that he can either baton pass out of this, or he has some way to threaten the opposing Celebi. It might be a mini baton pass chain here from Roro. He may begin combining up here. He may go for a Swords Dance pass, anything along those lines. PDC didn't have a say in this matchup, so we don't know if he's content with it or not. Roro could have switched anything into this Celebi, and it's interesting that the choice was his own Celebi. So, I mean, he didn't have something there like a Heracross that would have been wonderful, a Salamence, anything to really threaten it, maybe even a T-Tower with Crunch or HP Bug. There were a lot of better things, in theory, that he could have had other than his own Celebi, so that certainly should give us some information. You have to ask yourself, of all the things that he could have done, why would he choose to do this? And the thing that makes logical sense in my mind is that he's got a way to baton pass it out. So basically he passed from one passer to another, so if he doesn't like the matchup or if things start to go south, he could just BP out again. He also feels very comfortable setting up on the opposing Celebi. So he does go for a Calm Mind here. Raikou coming down for PDC. So we've got a special spam team, a CM spam team it looks like, which is an archetype that's been around for a long time. We haven't seen it yet in this tour, but PDC breaking it out. I don't know that that's going to be the best thing in this matchup. It doesn't necessarily have roars or good ways to stop a BP chain, so it may have been a lead offensive Coon. It may have been like a sub Coon, Calm Mind sub 2 attacks. Might have even been Calm Mind 3 attacks for PDC. Maybe the Coon will get to do its thing later. If it does have HP Grass or HP Electric, maybe it can Calm Mind up and actually hit that Vaporeon in a meaningful way. We'll see how the game plays out, but it is Roro using his timer right now, figuring out what to do with this Raikou. Raikou may or may not have Roar, and the other thing that Roro has to ask himself is, does he want to get into a Calm Mind war against this Raikou? It is absolutely possible they both begin boosting up. Raikou has HP Ice or something, or gets a crit and just gets there. Raikou is going to be faster than Celebi, but obviously Celebi with the Stab Psychic, if he has that, is going to do more damage to Raikou than Raikou could do back with, say, a Stab Thunderbolt. And it is possible that Raikou has Thunderbolt HP Grass, can't even do anything meaningful to Celebi. This could be a bluff. But like I said, it also could have Roar, so like the problem with Celebi trying to just set up in his face is he could simply get blown up here. Blown out, rather, not blown up. So Roro going over all of this in his mind, it's dangerous for him potentially to get into a Calm Mind war, because if they both go 2-3 Calm Minds, and then Raikou simply phases him out, Roro could be in some big trouble. I don't know if he has a Blissey or a proper special wall in the back, but Raikou, after a few boosts, if Roro doesn't have Dougie or Blissey or proper answers for it, Raikou could just sweep him. And man, Roro going deep in the tank here, taking a minute and a half and counting, figuring out, even though he's the one with the boosted Pokemon and PDC is not, Roro is taking his time here, minute and a half and counting. Even more now, it's been over 2 minutes. He is trying to figure out the optimal thing to do on turn 3. Really taking this seriously and figuring out the play. This amount of clock usage on the third turn, that just Man, you've got to think. I mean, if he could just BP a Duck Trio, he would just do it, right? You just click Baton Pass here all day. So the more time goes by, the more PDC has to feel comfortable that this Raikou is a real threat in this matchup. Finally, here's the BP. That took over 2 minutes for him to come to that conclusion. And it's going to be to Zapdos, and it is in fact Roar, so good thing he didn't try to get into a Combine War with him, but this Raikou might be a legitimate threat here. McMeghan does not seem to have a proper special wall, nor does he seem to have a Duck Trio, so that Raikou, if it can get some boosts going, is going to be a legitimate threat to the whole team for McMeghan, and they both seem to actually have similar teams here. Pretty offensive, special-based teams. One of them went with just a traditional Combine spam route, PDC. One of them went with the more Baton Pass-oriented route, Roro. But these are, in effect, similar teams. These are special-based offenses for both players. And once again, we have this matchup, Celebi on Celebi. PDC did not like this matchup before. Roro did. We'll see if the line breaks from before. In the previous situation, Roro simply went for Combine as Raikou came in, and then McMeghan didn't like that at all. We'll see if PDC again goes to Raikou here, or if Roro wants to change it up. We very well may see him simply Baton Pass out here to try to generate something. He could go Combine again, but if he thinks the Raikou's coming in, the problem that he's going to have is that the Raikou can just Roar to mess up any chain that he's trying to do. So I believe what we're going to see here is probably a BP from Roro, but it's now PDC taking the time. It's now PDC taking over a minute to figure out how to respond to this situation. So only 5 turns in, we have seen significant clock usage from both of these guys. We are very, very early in this game, and this is a sharp contrast from the previous game where it was just click, click, click. That game would have already, that game would have already been over or on turn like 30. But here we are on turn 5 going real slow, and it is another Calm Mind from Roro as the Raikou comes in. So far, this is exactly what happened last time. We know Raikou has Roar. Does that change the dynamic from Roro's point of view? He doesn't go for it this time. He goes Calm Mind, and he's going to eat a Giga Drain. Something noteworthy about that is that Raikou, even though it's not known to be a bulky Pokemon the way something like Kuhn or Zapdos is, Raikou does have pressure. Therefore, that Giga Drain, only with 8 base PP to begin with, is going to cost 2 to do that against the Raikou. So now, it is the BP to Porygon 2, and Raikou decides he doesn't like the matchup. That's probably wise because of the potential status effect, and it is in fact Thunder Wave. A Thunder Wave comes back, but it's going to connect with Celebi. So really, Celebi, Electric Poke, Water Poke, P2, these are remarkably similar teams so far from these two players. Here's the BP again. It's Rachi. PDC very well may have one of those himself, so really it is wild that these guys are both using a really uncommon archetype, a known archetype, and an archetype that's been around for a long time, but an archetype that is not generally considered top tier. This is kind of like a tier 2 or 3 archetype in the competitive ADV landscape. You don't see this all that often, and it's very curious that just by dumb coincidence, both players opted to bring this kind of team for this match. And the dynamic is definitely interesting because, man, if either one gets rolling with Combines, it's really hard to stop. These are both teams that are very much meant to be offensive at their core, and they do not have a big, sturdy defensive backbone. It can get real ugly if something gets boosts, and speak of the devil, here is Raikou with 3 Combines. That is a dangerous man. There is a Thunderbolt. There's a one-hit KO on Porygon 2, and Roro all of a sudden might be in some trouble. That is going to be a hard guy to stop. His answer to the Raikou is going to be Vaporeon. Nope, that's going to be a one-hit KO. I don't know what he was trying to do there. Trying to survive Thunderbolt and roar him out. There's Thunderbolt killing Rachi as well. This might just be a sweep. These games can end very, very quickly. Roro allowed that Raikou to get a couple boosts too many. Thunderbolt crit there certainly seals the deal. If he could have lived that, he certainly isn't going to live a crit. This is looking like game over, and Roro now desperately trying to Calm-Mind up with his own Celebi. Gonna go Giga Drain. Not gonna do it. Now he goes Calm-Mind. There is Roar, and the final poke is Raikou. These teams are almost identical for these two players, and it is going to be a reverse of what we saw in Game 1. Roro walked all over PDC and did not lose a single poke in the first game, and here we are, PDC looking like he's not going to lose a single poke in this game. We're looking at reverse 6-0s. Very unusual, not all that common in ADV, but I have seen a couple of these today. These two games have both been stomps, and we are going to be off to Game 3. I'm going to hold tight for just a minute in case they start. Kind of awkward to do Game 1 and Game 2 in one video, but then Game 3 in a separate video, so I think at this point, I am pretty resigned to my fate. I am going to sit here and wait with you guys, and we are going to see Game 3 together. But man, neither of these games overly close. I've got both of them on the screen here. Game 1, 6-0 and 32 turns for Roro. After PDC conceded, he knew it was never going to happen. And then this Game 2 here, all PDC. The Raikou, a major threat to his counterpart team. Got a couple too many boosts. Roro could not even close to stop it. Couple crits sped up the inevitable, and PDC smashed him. So all there is to do is wait for the third game. Maybe we can check on Classic. Game 5 of Classic between Solwind and Ban Manaphy is also happening at this time. So very exciting time to spectate Pokemon. Game 3 should be starting anytime. Let's just real quick check on that and not miss the game that we're waiting on. But this is a pretty cool side entertainment. Solwind and Ban Manaphy here. Cool stuff. Looks like Solwind has a pretty good advantage in this game. I'm not going to attempt to narrate this starting on turn 98. But yeah, it's looking rough. It looks like Solwind's got a pretty good edge in this game. And that would be a great final. I mean, it would be either way. But if it ends up being Solwind winning, which maybe he doesn't. Marowak is a very dangerous poke. But if Solwind does end up winning, it would be Solwind against ABR in the finals, which is pretty sweet, and it's just oh so appropriate. Solwind, who notoriously comes in second place in every single tournament. Wouldn't it just be so appropriate for him to get second again and lose to ABR in the finals? But yeah, all those guys, Ban Manaphy, Solwind, ABR, they are all involved in this tour. Some of them with better results than others. Ban Manaphy and ABR, they won their first round, CALLOUS Invitational. Solwind did not. Just waiting on that third game. Hope they're not waiting for the end of this game. That could be a minute, but like I said, at this point, I am committed. I am here with you. I refuse to do Game 1 and 2 in one video, and then Game 3 in a separate video. I would only do that if I absolutely had to. I would think that they're going to go ahead with Game 3 anytime now. PDC did mention having to get dinner at some point. I will be pissed if he's going to go eat dinner right now, come back in an hour and play the third game. Just check Discord real quick, make sure that is not the case. Doesn't seem to be. Nobody's saying anything about that. I believe we are just waiting for the third game at any given time. Not that these guys are the best at communicating. There we go. Here's the third game. Sorry, Solwind, Ban Manaphy. Good luck, guys. Back to the ADV. So here we go. The rubber match. PDC and Roro. And it's a lead T-Tower and Metagross, respectively. Standard leads. Swampert bottom. Meta on the top. And I think I'm just joking. He must know that these guys aren't still in Classic. I mean, Classic is in semifinals. I'm going to think he was joking. But either way, McMeghan's going to go to Selby, and so is PDC. So this is the second game in a row in which both players have opted to bring Selby. They both seem to be a fan of that. And PDC is going back to something very similar to what he did in Game 1. He is bringing a Fori team. And I think this might actually be a Moltres team for PDC. I've seen him use similar teams to this in the past and have pretty good results. He might have like Moltres Gengar, for example, as his two final pokes. Roro, on the other hand, has opted for a Swords Dance Pass team. So this is the second time for him that he's gone with a Mini Baton Pass chain. Who is the recipient going to be into Fori? It is going to be Meta, and there is Layer 1 of Spikes coming down. Meta should not be able to kill Fori here without a crit, but Fori should not be able to kill Meta either. See if Meta goes for something like agility here, or if he goes straight for the attack. Certainly doesn't have to worry with the Fori being there about something like a Skarmory coming down. That seems pretty unlikely. The double Spiker team, the double Steel team does exist. Danilo, I think, came up with that first a number of years ago. But I do not think that's something that we realistically have to worry about here. If it were that team, it would be Skarm and Doug as the last two. But like I said, I don't think so. PDC the one taking the time here. It's been Roro being the proactive player generally in most of these games. And here is a big 53% Earthquake. That's a really awkward number. It did 53 and it left Fortress at 54. So the next one may or may not kill. And it's very, very damage roll dependent. That's a tough number, and they're both going to have to kind of think about calculated risk here. I don't know. I mean, Roro shouldn't have too much to lose, even if he doesn't get the kill. But, I mean, he's got to be worried about the Fortress retaliating with Boom and then like a Moltres follow-up or something like that. He also, PDC could go to an Earthquake immunity here, potentially. For example, Moltres, which is the poke I keep bringing up. If he has that, Moltres could come in for free here. And that would scare off the meta. We know that the meta doesn't have something like Endure Salic. We've already seen the lefties, so the Moltres would outspeed and scare away the Metagross, who already has that double boost, so the boost would go to waste if something like a Moltres came in here. It could also just be something like a Zapdos. It could be a Salamence that is CB and can threaten him with Earthquake, or a Salamence that has Fire Blast, which would also kill him from this HP. So it's not as simple as just clicking Earthquake here for Roro. He certainly can do that, and there are scenarios where that is the right play, but I don't think it's as simple as that. I think there are times where Earthquake could go badly, such as if those Pokemon that I mentioned were to come in here. It would be a big tempo loss for Roro, and if anything, PDC might even be a little bit ahead if that were to happen, because he's got the spikes down. All he took is a little bit of damage on Fori to do that, and the tempo and the spike advantage would be with PDC. So like I said, I don't think it's as simple as automatically clicking Earthquake here. In fact, if you're Roro here, I think there's absolutely an argument to be made for clicking Meteor Mash here. Or hell, even Rock Slide, if he had it, is an interesting argument. I think Rock Slide has potential to be a blowout here. Should like a Moltres, a Gengar, a Zapdos, a Salamence, that kind of thing come in, it would get rocked by a Rock Slide. It's a minimal risk play for McMeghan, too. I mean, really, what could happen? Just Earthquake? Doesn't seem like a huge deal. Fori can't kill Metagross here without a critical hit. It did 30% last time. Hell, even a crit doesn't get him, right? I mean, I don't know. It seems low risk for Roro to switch it up and do something other than Earthquake here. At the same time, I mean, overthinking it in Pokemon is totally a thing. Sometimes the most obvious play is the right play. We'll see what he comes up with. Roro decided on his play long ago. PDC the one taking the time here. 2 minutes to make this turn 6 decision. How does he want to proceed? Roro has his move locked in and has for quite some time. All the pressure on PDC. This is his CALLOUS Invitational debut as a player. He would love to beat a very difficult opponent in Roro, and after all that talk and all those things that could have happened, Roro simply clicks the most obvious move. It is Earthquake. It does get the favorable damage roll, and PDC is going to lose his Fori. He had a chance to live that there, but the damage did not cooperate for him, so Fori is going to go down after establishing one layer and one layer only of spikes, and it is now going to be on PDC to find a different way to deal with this +2 attack meta. His play is going to be Aerodactyl here. He's going to try to scare it out with the threat of a Choice Band Earthquake, which does connect, but it does not kill, and Rock Slide retaliates for Roro, killing the Aerodactyl easily because of that +2. And this is once again a one-sided affair at this juncture. Roro has only revealed 2 Pokemon, whereas PDC has already lost 2 Pokemon on turn 8. These games vary back and forth. Neither one has been remotely close so far. I hope this third game is a little bit closer. Magneton switching in for Roro. That's an interesting decision. I guess he does not have a good switch into what could be an offensive Starmie, and he also sees that he's got nothing to trap, so that's the poke that he opts to give up. PDC gets on the scoreboard, so we will not have 3 consecutive 6-0 games. The first 2 were, this one will not be, and that is a hidden power fighting from Celebi. We saw this earlier in Georgie's set, and man, that's the concession right then and there on turn 11 for PDC. Evidently cannot break it after losing his T-Tower. This is the shortest game of the tour so far. This set was fast and bloody. 2 one-sided games. This one, air quotes, the closest of the 3, but really not all that close. And Roro is going to connect with the hidden power. HP fighting for the second time this evening, for the second time in 3.5 hours, is going to devastate a Tyranitar. Those are the kinds of plays that win tournament games. So, Roro is going to win the set 2-1. He is going to be in a stacked winner's bracket that includes Asta, Lanier, Tama, M-Dragon, Undisputed, and others. The winner's bracket this year is loaded. Can't wait to see how the pairings for round 2 come down. It's inevitably going to be some really good ones. Hard to avoid it with the amount of quality that won their first round set. There is one more set in this round. That is Golden Sun vs. Dice. That's about an hour and a half from now. That's going to be narrated, or at least it's planned to be narrated by Disno. So that's going to be it for me for this round. But I will see you guys in round 2. And please do leave a thumbs up if you've been enjoying the tournament so far.